here with Tone here. Let's bring him on here. It's time for the segment. I enjoy talking to our friend here each and every single day.
Big Sales, how you doing, sir?
So, what do you think of that, man? Vienna, Tokyo,
Big Sales
Berlin.
going global. I like
Dude.
it. I love it, man.
I used to get on a train and go through the Vienna Alps, and we would stop at Bonn, Graz, all these places, and we would wrestle at these places. And it was crazy.
Which country gives you the most? When you think back to all the countries you've been to, all the different cities that you've been to, in your wrestling career, which one gives you the most? Which one gives you the funniest memories, the best memories?
Vienna.
How come?
People were weird, and
Okay.
I mean in a good way.
All right.
They would ask you questions, and I was like, well, we were like the biggest dudes there, and you walked into these places, they would be very kind to you. What would you like to eat? Hey, here. Hey, here's a beer. Guy handed me a beer once. I'm at like a beer garden. I'm getting hammered. I didn't pay him anything. He's going, here, take it. And I'm going like, hey, get this, dude. The beer's under the ground. And they don't have no carbonation in it. They got all their kegs and stuff under the ground. There's no carbonation in the beer. And you get blitzed on that beer there, man. It's crazy. Also, the Red Bull's different. Hey, the greatest drink I've ever had in my life was in Vienna, Austria. It's called Red Bull and Red Vodka.
Red Bull and red vodka. Okay.
Man, I'll tell you this, dog.
I've had Red Bull and vodka before. I haven't had red vodka before.
Red Bull, red vodka. Unbelievable. Unbelievable here. All right. I want to start where we started the show out with you.
All right, let's do it.
You think Carson Wentz belongs in the Philadelphia Eagle Hall of Fame?
It's so funny, man. I like when you pose that question, I've never given it much thought. And when you laid out his numbers like that, as exciting as they were, and he's given us great times and he's given us some great seasons. I mean, it's so hard to imagine them putting him in. Would I put him in? I feel like he's a fringe guy. Like, I don't know. And here's the thing, right? We're not talking about
more. Who did more, Tone? McNabb or him?
I mean, Wentz technically didn't play in the Super Bowl. We've seen McNabb give us 11 and 12 and 13 win seasons before. So in the full length of his career, you would naturally say McNabb gave you more because he had a longer career here, right? We're like, doesn't that make more sense? I mean, Foles.
Yeah, no. Yeah, but here, was McNabb ever an MVP?
No, but Wentz wasn't either.
Yeah, he was. Burt Bell.
Okay. I mean, all right. Yeah, I guess
it is technically.
I mean, he was someone's MVP.
Okay, Pro Bowl. How about this? He had the greatest single season passing year, number 5 passing year, number 1 touchdown. He owns records for the single season passing number. And do you think that Jalen Hurts is going to throw for 33 touchdowns this year?
I don't know. Actually, I at this point, at this rate, I don't think so. I think he's projected for like 28 or something like that.
Okay,
29. So
that would be the sixth. That would be the 6th best, and Wentz holds that too at 27.
I guess I look at it like this, right? Terrell Owens, is he going to Eagles Hall of Fame? He gave you a great season. Wentz, he gave you really a strong
5 years.
But they all weren't strong. Like, okay, so for example, the rookie year, obviously, we don't really that's a rookie year. I'm not counting.
It's kind of 4 years if you think about it, Tone. How about this?
Right.
Was 2018 strong?
No, because he actually got hurt again. And Foles had to come in and save the day. So no.
Was 2017 strong?
If I had to rank his seasons, I would say 2017, 2019.
Correct.
2019 is his second best season. He had
16.
16 was the rookie year. He had 16 touchdowns, like 15 or 14 interceptions. I mean, I don't really count anyone's rookie year against them like that.
3782 he had 16. He was 5th all time
Yeah.
in the history of the Eagles single season passing number.
Yeah. Overall, I don't think he'll get in. I mean, he put them in position to win a Super Bowl in terms of the first seed, but we've had number one seeds before. You know what I mean?
Yeah,
And
yeah.
it's not like he's provided anything we haven't
This
necessarily
is a
seen.
preference here, Tone. This is
So-
no right or wrong here. This is a preference here.
I don't think he'll get in, if I'm being honest.
How about
I
this?
don't think
He's
he'll get in.
4th all time in passing yards in the history of the Eagles, which dates back to 1930. He's 4th in completions. He is 4th in TD passes. I mean, it's not like he didn't do anything in the building here.
No, he did something. No, yeah. See, I'm not one of those fans that's going to pretend he came here and just did nothing. That's not what happened, right? Because I was a Carson Wentz guy and I defended him pretty loudly. It's just that he doesn't have the longevity for me. For me to put him in. That's really what it boils down to.
So he's kind of in the TO room with you.
Yeah, literally.
I mean, and I said this, and I heard a little bit of what you said about him too, and I kind of expanded on it. That he's going to get an opportunity to audition for a team. This is not a Rams deal because of the money that is tied. This
is a league deal. Listen. People probably aren't talking about it, but everyone's watching him over the next 3 weeks.
How he deals as a backup and starter is going to determine if multiple teams, are going to give him an opportunity to make more money, stay in the league. Okay. If Chase Daniels, Tone, could stay in the league for 17 years, Carson Wentz should be able to stay in the league for 17 years.
Absolutely. As a matter of fact, I can think of a few teams that may even consider bringing him in maybe as a bridge before they get to their drafting, before they draft the quarterback,
the
right?
Bucks.
The Bucks, Minnesota, New England, Green Bay. You know what I mean?
Chicago.
Atlanta. So he's definitely
Tennessee.
Auditioning. Tennessee, but it all depends what they do with Will Levis. Like, how do they feel about him? So I think Will Levis's season, how the rest of his season goes depends on if they even look at him. But overall, he's auditioning for the rest of the league.
Would you do this, Tone, with the Jets? Would you move off of Wilson, sign Wentz, and have Wentz as your bridge after Rodgers leaves after next year?
I was actually going to say that, but I'm unsure how long Aaron Rodgers is going to play, because the way he's talking, he plans on being here for at least 3 or 4 seasons, the way he's talking. So I don't really know. That's why I didn't mention them. But again, there are at least 4 or 5 teams that are looking at Carson Wentz like, all right, let's see if you can be our 2 to 3 year bridge, and before we draft the guy, or at least develop a guy.
Let's go to some Eagle talk here.
Let's do it.
I brought up a fact that maybe to jumpstart the offense, start on offense here, maybe you go a little 2-back.
I've been thinking
put
about
a little
that.
Penny and you put a little Swift back there, because some of the people Tone, do you believe that you're going to get 2,000 yards and 25 touchdowns out of Swift and Hurts this year?
I actually think
did with Sanders and Jalen last year.
I actually think Jalen's going to have less rushing yards this year. I actually think that because of.
So then you didn't replace it,
right? But was that really the goal?
Okay, but that means you're not as physical and you're more finesse. That means you're finesse is throwing the ball. That's not a power game. Okay,
right.
Last year you were a power team, and the 25 round. See, to me, not so much the number in the 2,000, which is significant to me, because you know what that is? Those are time of possession yards. When you have 2,000 rushing yards versus 2,000 passing yards, Tone, in that process of getting that 2,000 passing yards, you can have 3 and outs in there. When you have 2,000 rushing yards, you're going on sustained drives of 10+ drives of plays, and you're keeping the ball away. 25. Am I right when I say this? Didn't Sanders have 11 touchdowns last year, and didn't Jalen have 13? So that's like 24 TDs, right? Am I right with that? So you had 2,000 rushing yards and 24 touchdowns. That's
correct.
Quite a bit of ground game that is not going to be replaced.
Yeah. So, yeah, you're right. 24 touchdowns between Miles Sanders and Jalen Hurts. Miles Sanders had 1,269 in terms of yards, and Hurts had 760. on 165 attempts. So Sanders had 259 attempts. You know, as of right now, as it stands on the 2023 season, Jalen Hurts is on pace for 596 rushing yards on the season.
So 200 off.
That's about 200 less, right? So although you may have sacrificed some of your running production, the reality is, I think what the Philadelphia Eagles are doing now is what they wanted all along.
Yeah, but you're giving more opportunity for 3 and outs when you do that, because if you're throwing the ball more, you're going to obviously – now, look, what's keeping it close and making it look close is one thing that he is doing exceptional. And you brought this up 2 days ago. He's cutting down on the turnovers and cutting down on the turnovers, Tone, but still maintaining 68% completion percentage, which means like he's only not completing 3 of 10, which is great. Okay? That's great. That's how you keep the sticks moving, is when you're doing that.
Yeah, you know, Jalen, he averages about 33 pass attempts a game. That's about 5. That's anticipated to be 576 on the season. You know, last year
435.
Last year he had 435 in terms of attempts. Well, actually, he had 460
okay.
pass attempts. So he's technically going to be throwing, if he continues to keep shape, he'll be throwing the ball 110 more times this season. So again, right? You know,
that's 4 games.
If we're judging the Philadelphia Eagles and comparing them to the field, you know, last year the way they did offense was the anomaly, the balance and running the ball and really leaning on that run game and only passing the ball between 400 to 500 times in the season. That they were the anomaly amongst some of those playoff teams, some of those top tier teams like the Bills and the Bengals and the Chiefs and even the Cowboys, where the Cowboys ran past the ball more than the Philadelphia Eagles. So again, I'm trying to shift my perspective when it comes to the Philadelphia Eagles now, right? I'm trying to expand my scope and how I judge them in the passing game and in the run game. You know, although they have a talented offensive line, their running back situation is pretty average in terms of production right now.
And would you agree they're not
throwing the ball more? I would never say the Eagles aren't physical.
No,
because,
I said the backs.
Oh, the backs. Oh, well, Kenny Gainwell's he's not a physical back, and DeAndre Swift, that's not his preference. So I don't think by nature none of them are physical running backs. I think
Jalen's a physical back.
Yeah, he is. I think their most physical running back actually is Boston Scott, but he doesn't get the touches. But that's another.
You mean Boston Peterson?
Boston Baked Bean.
Yeah, right.
Oh man, but again, I just think the Philadelphia Eagles are literally evolving on the fly, and they're actually winning in the process. Not many teams are capable of doing that. So that's what we're seeing right now. If Jalen Hurts continues to stay on trend with how he's passing the ball, being efficient, being accurate, moving the chain, so on and so forth, I don't see why the Philadelphia Eagles can't be one of those teams that pass the ball north of 550, almost 600 times a game and still have a physical run game. It just depends on the personnel. And I think that's the main issue. They don't have the personnel to be physical in the run game.
That's where I'm at too with this. By the way, I'm looking at things to do in the second half to give different looks here.
Mm-hmm. You mentioned the 2 running back situation. I think that'd be interesting because it'll create some confusion between linebackers. It'll give them something else to focus on. And it could supplement the loss of Dallas Goedert. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
And it'll also increase the RPO situation. You'll know where that ball's going. You'll see a little bit more motion, things of that nature. It'll definitely create some creativity, some creative situations for Jalen Hurts and the rest of the team.
Kind of to go back a little bit of what I said also in the first hour. You think there's any coincidence that Roquan Smith has solidified that Ravens defense, and you got Fred Warner in San Francisco, and you got kind of dime store guys sitting in the middle of your defense? Can you imagine having Devin White sitting behind Jalen Carter and behind Jordan Davis, what that thing would look like? Don't you think that solidifies the entire defense? That if you put a guy like that in the middle, he's 25 years old. He could play Mike linebacker for you for the next 10 years.
Listen, Sills, I've been wanting a linebacker for a long time. You know, they keep trying to convince us that that linebackers have almost no impact on the game. And I strongly disagree, man, because those guys, These days, man, these tight ends are more talented, they're more athletic, and also in the league is passing more. You're expecting these linebackers to do a lot more, than in the past. So I
They got
think
to be more Tampa 2 guys almost.
yeah, they had to be more versatile back there. And when you're constantly trying to patch up that position, it's kind of hard to find stability there. Now, although Nicholas Morrow has been the highest graded linebacker for the Philadelphia Eagles, and it's a pretty good grade. He's graded in the 80 percentile, amongst linebackers.
Not bad.
Which is good, all things considered. But they're not talented there. That's the reality. They're not talented there. It's always been patchwork over the past couple seasons, and I think you know what's so crazy? I would much rather Howie Roseman go super cheap at safety, and maybe spend money on one corner and then try to hope you hit with that second corner.
More draft choices back there and pay the linebacker.
And that's what I would do.
But see, Tone, that's what we talked about yesterday with the finances at corner.
Mm-hmm.
That don't give you that ability to do that because the amount of the cap that's involved in the two corners, you're not getting. Hey, as much as Slay, I heard you say that too. That losing Slay would be catastrophic. It would be, even though he's probably playing C+ ball right now. And you look at the other guy who's playing D+ ball, and you're paying almost $30 million with those two guys. You could have taken some of that money, drafted a rookie, the kid Gonzalez from, where was he? Oregon. You draft that kid, put him back there on a rookie deal, take that money, get a linebacker, make the deal with Tampa, send up a third and a fourth for Devin White, pay the guy the money. To me, your defense is solidified for the next 8 years.
Yeah, I definitely see the Eagles are funny, man. They do not value the linebacker. They don't value the running back. They don't value the safety.
And nor do they draft well there.
And nor do they draft well there. That's another thing. So I'm looking at it from this perspective. Even if you're not going to get a Devin White, don't be afraid to spend at least $10 million on something on the linebacker, man. You have to have someone there that can stabilize it and that can actually do the job.
The Jets had that guy Mosley on the market in the offseason, man. He's a freaking good. You don't want to pay $20 million or $18 million down there for Devin White. That kid Mosley's a ball player with the Jets, dude.
Yeah, and also we've seen if the D line isn't getting home, everything else just looks really, really, really bad. And it's not often they don't get home, but when they don't, it can get tricky. So, you're putting a lot of pressure on your defensive line to get home every single game. And I feel like if you at least had, I'm not saying all your linebackers got to be big money guys, but at least stabilize your defense with that middle linebacker. You're right. I mean, the Niners found Fred Warner in the third round. Like, come on. The third round. The Eagles have been trying to draft linebackers in the third round. They can't hit. They can't find a guy. Now, that begs the question, who's evaluating the linebackers for the Philadelphia Eagles in the draft? I'm curious about that now because we've drafted a linebacker in the third. Listen, even though they may not spend the money, the Eagles have spent pretty quality high picks on a linebacker over the past few years. They spent the third round. They spent the third rounder on Davion Taylor, and they spent the third rounder on Nakobe Dean. And right now, Davion Taylor's not even on the team anymore, and Nakobe Dean is on IR. You dig what I'm saying? Meanwhile, Fred Warner is drafted in the third round. Someone's not doing their job, or someone's not good at it. So if you don't want to spend the money, at least be good at drafting them. And they're not even that.
I mean, the corners, the safety position, and the linebacker position, they have not really wideouts. I mean, to me, the strength of the Eagles is clearly that they know what they're doing in the D-line and O-line. Which is
great. It's not many because there are teams who aren't good at that.
Phenomenal.
So that's great. You know what I mean?
And they're good at tight ends.
Yeah, they're good at tight ends as well. Yep.
But what are those positions? Those are all physical dominant positions that they have had they've had a blueprint of what they're looking for.
They're not good at skill positions. They're not good at the skill positions.
You know what else, Tone? I think maybe if you stay within a certain system, that eventually you're going to find the guy because to them, the system is more important than the personnel. You get what I'm saying? You could change coaches. You could change players. But right now, the Eagles value what they're doing more than the players that are in that system. You feel me? Because you're
Especially on
not changing it.
Especially on defense. If you're not on the defensive line, you're completely interchangeable. That's how they look at it. And you know, I will say this though, one thing that still holds true: if you have a good offensive line and you have a good if you have a good O line and a good D line, you're going to be in every game you play. So I understand their philosophy, and it's not wrong.
Nope.
But I think they need to be a little bit more flexible in their philosophy.
How about this? I said this, and before I even was talking sports in Philly, I said that 2017 team going into like the playoffs, I said they still have the best combination of O-line and D-line. And to me, that has been the significant thing the last 2 years for this 22 and 23 team, that if you look at a collective group, San Francisco's hanging there. I'll tell you who else is starting to hang there now, Baltimore. They're starting to get in that group too, where you're starting to see O-line, D-line combinations. And to me, there's no question that's where they are excellent at. But when it comes to, again, you just, like I said, you always follow the money. What's the weakest part? Look at what's happened. Again, what's crazy about this, and like I said, I sound like a dick here. They're 8-1, okay? But they're cheap in the offensive running game, which is not going to be comparable to a year ago when it comes to the production out of the backs. You're not going to get the production at the linebacker. You think you got a linebacker on that team who's going to get 160 tackles this year?
Oh, hell no. Hell no.
Do you think you're going to have a linebacker that's going to get 110 tackles this year? That was your Sam backer in Kaiser White.
The linebacker that's going to have the most tackles on the Philadelphia Eagles will likely be Zach Cunningham, because he's had the most consistent reps. Let me double check this to make sure. Let me see what he's on pace on, because I'm curious now. I really like what Zach Cunningham's been doing. He leads the linebackers in tackles right now. Reed Blankenship leads the team in tackles with 55. Zach Cunningham has 54 tackles. So right now, Zach Cunningham is on pace for a total of 102 tackles. So
he won't even cover Kaiser White.
Won't even cover Kaiser White.
And you're going to be almost 70 tackles shy of what TJ did.
Yeah, TJ had like 169. 169. Damn. When you think about that, that's insane. He also didn't miss a game. So that's another thing as well. So
think about that. He almost had 10 tackles a game.
I just want them to change their philosophy with that linebacker position, man. Again, I'm not saying you got to break the bank, but you could have had TJ Edwards here for $6 million. Come on, man. Really?
Right. Instead of spending 20 or 18, you could have had a guy for 7.
Are we penny pinching like that? Like,
sure,
it's not.
Seems it.
It's not that bad for us. Come on. Like the cap is clay. You can maneuver that. You could have had him here, but then again, the word I heard is they didn't even make him an offer.
I know they didn't. They didn't. All right. Here's another one for you. Where's Nolan Smith, dude?
That's a very good question. I'm having a hard time understanding why it's been hard for Sean Desai to get him on the field. Now, it's not like he's not getting any snaps, but
is he hurt?
No, he's not. He's not been on any injury report all season.
He's also a non-factor.
Yeah, he's only had one flash play, and that's where he had the sack on Tua. But he came off the line pretty much untouched, and he got the sack there. That was his biggest play of the year. Came in a big spot, but still, the bottom line is Nolan really hasn't been a presence. Now that I'm looking at this depth chart right now for the Philadelphia Eagles, I'm curious to know why he's not getting snaps ahead of Derek Barnett. Why he's not getting snaps ahead of. Let me see here. So obviously he's not going to be ahead of Josh Sweat and Hassan Reddick. He's Hassan's backup. But why is Derek? I don't get why Derek Barnett's even getting snaps at all. I would much rather have Nolan Smith out there.
Even when Hassan Reddick was hurt with the cast on his hand, I didn't see him really that much.
Right. It's a fact. So let's look at Nolan. Let's look at Nolan.
You think they're having a tough time trying to figure out how to play him?
That's interesting. They haven't really over the past couple of weeks. As a matter of fact, the defensive play calling has been kind of basic. Wouldn't you say? I mean, I feel like Desai's gotten way more conservative over the past couple of weeks, and I haven't really been seeing too much creativity over the past couple of weeks. Let's look at his snap counts though. Right now on the season, Nolan Smith, he has Wow. On like through 9 games, he only has 56 total snaps.
Wow. For a first rounder?
Yeah, for a first rounder, man. I'm not sure now he's on special teams a lot, but I'm not understanding why he's not getting any snaps at all.
So was he the 30th pick?
31st.
31st pick?
No, I think you're right. He was 30th because one of those teams lost their draft pick. Was the Dolphins?
Dolphins.
So yeah, he was the 30th overall pick.
So the 30th pick in the NFL draft is a non-factor on your team. And it's not the fact that he's a backup quarterback. He's a non-factor.
He's just not on the field.
I wonder if it's the scheme doesn't fit. I wonder if it's.
I don't think they would draft him though if that was the case, right? Because
I agree. I think they looked at him and said he probably fits our scheme here. So, okay, is it the fact that they're afraid to put him in coverage? Do they think he's not a very good cover guy? Do they think he's limited? And I mean, it's really weird. It's almost like he's a healthy scratch every game.
His motor is so high. I don't get why he wouldn't be on the field. I mean,
why would you blitz him?
Yeah, I feel like he would get way more. I feel like you'll get more out of him than you would Derek Barnett any day of the week. So I'm having a hard time understanding the pecking order right now. With the rotations. I mean, obviously there are moments when Hassan Reddick and Josh Sweat come off the field. So does that mean we know BG is going to be on the field, but Derek Barnett, Nolan Smith, I'd much rather take my chances with the young guy. I mean, Derek Barnett, you're not dropping him back in coverage. So you peg a good question. Say that one more time.
Is it coaching or player?
We don't have enough snaps to say it's the player.
Yeah.
So I gotta say coaching.
Me too.
I gotta say coaching.
This is coaching.
It'd be different if he was on the field and he wasn't performing.
If this guy was playing 35% of the snaps and we didn't see any production,
that's different.
That'd be one thing. But when you're seeing limited snaps, to me, it's getting him on the field and putting him in a position to succeed. It's almost like they can't figure it out.
Yeah, I would love to see him more in the second half of the season after the bye. I think this bye week is so crucial for the Philadelphia Eagles. And you brought up the fact that it's probably the best or most strategically placed bye out of all the NFL teams.
Unbelievable.
I think it's going to be real important for Sean Desai to really reevaluate his personnel and how can he maximize utilizing each guy to their skill set. And I would love to get Nolan Smith going as a fifth blitzer, as a fifth guy.
It's funny you should say that, figuring out his personnel, because here's my next suggestion. I would love to see Sean Desai experiment more with Jalen Carter and moving him up and down the line of scrimmage.
Tilting him. They do that with BG a lot.
Tilting him as a nose, putting him in a 5 technique, put him in a 3, move him around. Let's put him on mismatches on like the offensive guard, the tackles, the guys who are not the greatest players in there, or maybe backups. And to me, I could even go to a bear front and put Milton on the other side. But move him. I would like to see them move him around. And here's why. He's a great pass rusher. He could play a 3 and a 1. If you could play a 3 and a 1, you could play a 7 and a 5 because of his quickness. I think he could set the edge and he's a big dude, but his quickness.
He's fast, man.
He's fast as hell in that first step. In my opinion, I would like to put him, and again, line him up in different positions like they did Reggie White. Put him on mismatches. And to me, watch this. Put him on the worst guard. Put him on the worst tackle. Mm-hmm. He'll win every battle.
I'll play matchups.
So I'd like to see them move him around a little more.
Yeah. I think the Eagles could do a better job on defense playing matchups. You know what I mean?
That's right.
They're so married to the scheme that they don't want to move guys. But if you notice in that Cowboys game, for example, Darius Slay, when it was crunch time, Sean Desai said, "All right, Slay, you're on CD Lamb for this drive." You know what I mean? And
Cowboys move Micah around like that.
And they made it work. So this goes back to what I said prior. I think Sean Desai has to really sit back and say, okay, what can I do different? What haven't I done yet? Right? What haven't I done? I know what I've done. I know what's worked. I know what hasn't worked. What haven't I done yet with these guys? Can I move this guy over here? Because he's shown, even in the offseason, right? He's shown with the DBs.
Yeah.
He had those guys playing all different kinds.
Bradbury went to the slot in the offseason.
Yeah, so you've seen the creativity there, but on the D line, it's almost like he just wants to leave guys where they are. And I understand not wanting to move Reddick and Sweat off the edge. I understand the mindset. That's where they're at their best. But
But I
I
think
would,
it's about mismatches, Tone. Like
yeah.
fact checker said, why aren't you moving Reddick around more and having
Well,
him even?
I don't want Reddick inside at all.
No, no, no. I'm
He's
talking right side, left side.
oh, okay. I see what you mean. Right. Yeah. That's a good question. I definitely think that he
I think it's what
has the
you said.
tools.
They're married to their system.
Yeah, they're married. They're married to it, especially on the defensive line, especially. I think with the DBs, they got creative because maybe they looked at it like, those guys are old. We might have some injuries. Let's make sure we can cover our bases. On the D line, they got to get more creative with how they deploy those guys. Because I think what's happening now, I think the Philadelphia Eagles, their talent has been getting them over the hump in terms of getting to the quarterback. But I also think other teams kind of know who's going to be where. And I think that's why the sack numbers aren't as high as they normally would be. Offenses are preparing. Okay, we know he's going to be here. We know he's going to be here. All we have to do is find a way to beat him. Whereas though, like you said, the Cowboys, they're moving Micah all up and down the D-line.
I don't think Gannon knew his personnel either last year very well, but I think this guy's got a better handle on it.
Yeah, he just has to do it. He just has to do it.
I think what holds him back is he's afraid of the secondary, Tone, to mess around with the front seven.
Right.
You know what I'm saying? I think that's the one part that's kind of stabilized. Now, the one thing I'll say is, for you, your secondary is not going to get better.
No.
But you know how you can help them? More pressure. Okay? More pressure. What does that create? Less developing routes, which helps you keep everything to what you did a year ago underneath. What's happening, Tone, is now because the less volume of pressure you're getting, the passes are getting more developed and they're more down the field. I don't really think they're playing anything different than what they did, except for this. The routes are developing more. If you watch the games, go back, and I do, you see the plays developing more, plus 15, plus 13.
Mm-hmm.
Last year, they were around 7 and 8, and they were underneath. And everything was underneath, and they kept it underneath. There was very few plus 25 plays. This year, because you're not getting it, like the Washington game, you got home once. Critical sack, Reddick, but still, you got
honestly, that's unacceptable to get home one time. And I understand that Bieniemy had a tremendous game plan, getting the ball out of his hands fast, but for your DBs to not be able to hold up for 2 seconds or 3 seconds is kind of sad. I think the one thing that can improve with the DBs, the only thing because from a talent perspective, they're not going to get better. They are who they are. But what you can hope to improve is the communication. And that's what the scheme's predicated on. Communication and knowing and making sure you're in the right spot. Because if you're not, we're going to have some issues. And on top of that, if you're not communicating properly, then because, those guys in that defense, they're passing guys off. You know what I mean? They're not really guarding a one-on-one man-to-man. They're literally passing guys off and, all that kind of stuff. So if no, it doesn't matter how talented you are. If you're not communicating properly and you're not, and guys don't know if you're passing the guy off to him, then people are going to be wide open all the time. And it doesn't help if it makes it even worse if your defensive line can't get home.
Who are you more concerned about with Mahomes coming out of the bye, Bradbury or Slay?
Bradbury. It's not even a conversation. I'm concerned with Bradbury for the remainder of the season because I'm having a hard time understanding why he looks so uncomfortable. I've seen the back of his jersey entirely way too much throughout the season. It just always seems like he's a step too late. Seems like it seemed like his body control was lacking. He just seems like he has the yips, like he almost forgot how to be what he was last year. And the scheme, again, it's not that much different. It's not like they're asking him to play man to man all the time. You're pretty much being a center fielder. You're playing the field, you're backing up. It's all about positioning, really. And to me, it just looks like Bradbury just doesn't look comfortable right now. He looks like he's second guessing himself. I don't like his body language. So I think he needs this bye more than Slade does, just in terms of the mental perspective. I think he needs to get away from football.
Devontae Smith has
My
had
man.
what his first half of the season has been what?
Solid. Not stellar, but solid, because I mean he had that one hiccup game against the Jets. A lot of people hold that game against him for some reason, and I'm like, he gave you one bad game in 3 seasons. Relax, you know what I mean? So
I'm not. I'm looking at I'm looking at 9 games. I don't look at it like that. I mean,
exactly,
you could pick Jalen Hurts apart on 2 games,
exactly.
but
So
you got to put it over 9. You're at the halfway point. That's how I build trends, Tone. It's not awful. Like the Jet. Watch this. That Jet game means dick to me now. Do you know
yeah,
that? I don't
it was
care.
bad. It was bad for everybody.
I don't
you know?
care. You know what that game was like? That was like the Colts game a year ago to the Chiefs. You think that game mattered to the Chiefs a year ago? Absolutely not. When you're evaluating the Chiefs, did you go, hey, they won the Super Bowl and he threw for 5,400 yards, but he lost to the Colts? Who cares?
No one cares about that.
That's what I look at with that Jets game. I go like this. He had 3 picks. Okay, well, welcome to the NFL. They get paid too. Okay, right. I'm like,
and also that Jets defense has made a lot of quarterbacks look average. So yes. I can't even deny that. But as far as Devontae Smith, I've been okay with his first half of the season. Okay with it. It's solid. He hasn't been a liability. He's made the most of his opportunities. He's gotten touchdowns. He has 4 touchdowns through 9 games. AJ has 6 through 9 games. AJ obviously has 1,000 yards right now. Smith has 533.
Wow, that's quite a different disparity, man. That's over 5. So over 500 yards off the pace of AJ. Wow.
Yeah. I think what stands out the most is the difference in average per catch. AJ Brown is averaging about 15 yards per catch. Actually, you want to know? I see it here now. You want to know what the main difference is between AJ Brown and Devontae Smith, and why the yardage seems so disparate? It's the yak.
Paycheck. I'm kidding. Go ahead. What?
That too. But it's the yak. Let me give you this number right here. AJ Brown has 316 yards after the catch. Devontae Smith only has 126.
Wow. So you're telling me at the halfway mark that AJ Brown could have almost 700 yards in after the catch yards on his total. That is insane.
Yeah. As a matter of fact, I can actually tell you what he's on pace for right now. Give me 1 second, because so that's
680.
He has 316 yards in yak right now. Let's divide that by 9 games. Multiply that by 17 games. He's on pace for 597 yak yards on the season.
600 more yards after he catches
after he catches it.
So you got to figure. Get this. So what's his yards per catch? 15?
15 exactly.
Okay, so 50. Dude, now put that what he's averaging. So put 600 into the average of 17, because he's going to play 17 probably. Okay, and that's 600. And that tells you what he's averaging after to the catch is 15, and then after the catch, it's got to be another what, 10?
Let me see. That's a good question. Let me see something.
That's incredible. So every time he catches,
okay, so he averages. Let me see. 316 divided by. Let me divide it by the receptions. 596 divided by. So
that's
through
right. The receptions.
Yeah. So through 9 games, he has 316 total yak. So 316 divided by 67 receptions. He's averaging about 5 yards per reception after the catch.
So he's averaging 20 yards a play.
That sounds crazy when you think about it. But Devontae Smith, it's the yak yards. You know what I mean?
Don't gloss over that. AJ's averaging 20 yards a play.
That's insane. That's insane.
There can't be a guy in the league doing that.
Now, here again, remember, I told you the difference, right? Last season, AJ Brown had. Now I told you he was on pace for five. He's on pace for almost 570 yak yards, right? Or was it five? Was it
No,
597?
600.
Yeah, 600. He's on pace for almost 600 yak yards, right? AJ. Last year he had 548 yak yards on the season. Devontae Smith last season had 476 yak yards. That's the difference in Devontae Smith's production, not the opportunities. He hasn't been put in situations where he's been getting enough yards after the catch. There's only what is that? 60, 30. There's only about a 90-yard, 80-yard difference between yards after the catch last season between AJ Brown and Devontae Smith. If Devontae Smith can do more after the catch, his numbers will look way better this season. That's the difference. It's not the opportunities, because last year
it is 15. It is 15, but think about that, Tone.
Well, you know what? The opportunities are disparate as well. Like there is a difference in opportunities. Let's not lie. There is a difference in opportunities, because last year AJ Brown had, Devontae Smith had 136. There's only,
you guys are right. You guys are right in the chat. You guys, I'm saying this though. So if he catches 2 footballs in a series, he's got 30 yards.
Say that one more time.
He catches 2 footballs in a series, like a drive.
Yeah.
He's got 30 yards in the first 2 plays if you throw the ball to him twice.
Pretty much.
Hey, man. No wonder you go like this. You got Hank Aaron out there, dude. Swing away.
Yeah. So again, like I look at Devontae Smith and it's like, he isn't getting the same opportunities as he got last season. Again, AJ Brown had 145 targets last year. Devontae had 136. I think it's the yak on top of that makes it look way worse.
See, I don't think it's ability or.
Oh no, it's not ability. Like I never question his ability.
It's just he's not.
AJ's hot. Like, how can you? AJ's just hot.
No. You're not wrong. You're not wrong on that. But again, we talk about 2 things that are different from a year ago. The balance of targets are different, and the production in the run game's different.
Yes.
Okay. Do you think that leads to how this thing is looking different from 22? Is like what you were talking about here. I mean, it's just Devontae Smith and the running backs are not as productive as a year ago.
Yeah, that's just the fact at the moment. That's the fact. The fact of the matter is, Devontae,
but say your famous line. 8-1.
8-1. 8-1. And look, again, Devontae, that's why, I was talking to Rob Ellis on Sports Take earlier. We did a segment and we talked about who are our breakout players for the second half of the season. My guy was Devontae Smith, because this is a big, and it's not saying that he didn't have a good first half. It's saying that his opportunities are going to jump exponentially because Dallas Goedert is out. And that's what happened last year. You see, that part doesn't get talked about enough. Last year when Dallas Goedert got hurt.
It did pick up when he got hurt. It did.
It did. As a matter of fact, we can actually kind of go through it a little bit.
It did pick up.
Yeah, in 2022. Listen to this, right? Before I get out of here.
Crazy. Is it as crazy to say we could almost go like this? Shit, there's just too many targets to go to, man. But they need one less guy.
Yeah. Listen to this, right? So, all right. After Dallas Goedert got hurt, because he got hurt in that Washington game, Devontae Smith in the Colts game, 9 targets. Green Bay, 9 targets. Tennessee, 8 targets. Giants, 8 targets. Chicago, 8 targets. Dallas, 12 targets. New Orleans, 13 targets.
Yep.
New York Giants, 8 targets, right?
They went up.
And now let me read the targets to you prior to Dallas Goedert getting hurt. Week 1, Detroit, 4 targets. Week 2, Minnesota, 7 targets. Week 3, Washington, 12 targets.
That was a big game. He had over 100 in that game.
He had 169. Yep. Week 4, Jacksonville, 4 targets. Arizona, 11 targets. He had 10 receptions, 11 targets. So he was a big piece of that matchup. The Cowboys game in week 6, 5 targets. Pittsburgh, 8 targets. Houston Texans, 2 targets. So his targets became more consistent after Dallas Goedert got hurt. If you notice, there's always the high low prior to, because that tells me they're picking and choosing who they want to feed that day.
But
after Dallas Goedert got hurt, his targets became way more consistent. After Dallas Goedert, the lowest amount of targets he's had is 8 targets. Other than that, he's had 8 or more after Dallas Goedert got hurt.
Is Brian Johnson going to want to target Devontae more or Swift more?
That's a hell of a question.
Okay, now that Goddard is out, because like you said last year, the one thing that Sanders didn't have the ability to do that Swift has, that's to be involved in the pass game.
Correct.
And so now, are you going to split those targets up between Swift and Devontae to try to cover Goddard up? So who do they try to establish more? Now, to me, get this. You know why I think it's Swift? What's the easy answer? Because they're low percentage passes. Because you know why? They're going to be hitch passes, quick passes, and screens. That's low percentage turnover. Instead of going down the field on an out or a seam, they're going to go. I think Swift's numbers go up and not Devontae's numbers go up.
I've been thinking about this ever since Goddard got hurt, and I don't think you're wrong in that thought process, because I immediately thought after Goddard got hurt, I expect Swift's targets to increase. I would love for them to get Devontae going in some crossing routes, because he's so he's faster than what he looks. Devontae doesn't get enough credit for his speed. He's long, he's rangy, he has a wide catch radius. Once Devontae gets going, he's a hard guy to catch because of that stride. I would love to see Devontae use more in some crossing routes. If you notice, they run a lot of comeback routes with Devontae, a lot of out routes.
I think he plays a lot like Keenan Allen.
He's actually, it's funny you say that. He had an interview with Shannon Sharp prior to being drafted to the Philadelphia Eagles. He was one of Shannon Sharp's first guests on his podcast. And Devontae said he models out of all the receivers he's watched throughout his career, he's modeled his game the closest to Keenan Allen. Oh. That's exactly what he said, out of his mouth. So Keenan Allen is somebody that he looks up to in terms of just pure route running ability, just being a rangy guy. I do agree. Swift's targets are going to go up, but I think Devontae's will stabilize and go up as well.
I'm going to try to get Wes Chandler on again. He's a dear friend of mine, and he coached Keenan. And I wonder what he sees, because he played Wes played at Florida, and he was the wide receiver coach in Cal when Keenan Allen was there. And he recruited him and coached him. And Wes, I'm not sure you know who Wes Chandler is, but Wes Chandler's got 10,000 plus receiving yards. And he played with Al Joyner and Kellen Winslow and all those guys, Air Coryell, and it was one of the greatest passing offenses, John Jefferson and all them guys. They were just insane. I mean, Tone, there were 4 receivers that had 1,000 yards one year. That's ridiculous. How about that? I mean, the tight end and the 3 wideouts. That's ridiculous. And the running back had 1,200 yards in Chuck Muncie. I mean, it was called Air Coryell for a reason.
Air Coryell.
and I mean, what you see in the offenses today is because of what Coryell just went in the Hall of Fame last year too, by the way, or 2 years ago. He went into the Hall of Fame. Hey, a couple last ones here. Let me throw this at you.
Yep.
I was going to do this myself, but I'll do it with you here. AFC, as of right now at the midterms, you got the Chiefs one in the West. I got the Ravens one in the North. Very contested North. I got believe it or not, the Dolphins winning the East. I got the Jags winning the South. I got the Bengals in a wild card. I got the Browns in a wild card. And I got the Bills in the last wild card.
Okay.
Would you put anybody else in there? Would you put the Chargers? Anybody else from the AFC in that conversation in there?
So I'm not putting the Chargers in any conversation, if I'm being honest. I just don't trust them in any capacity. They're so up and down.
But the Steelers.
I was talking to Rob about this. I was saying it's entirely possible the entire AFC North makes the playoffs. Has that ever been done? Has that ever been done? An entire division makes the playoffs?
I don't think so. I don't think an entire division is ever. I don't believe so.
Now, my only concern about the Steelers is can they sustain the upcoming on their schedule? It's tricky, but it's not. They got Green Bay. They can beat them, and then they got the Browns, Bengals, Cardinals, Patriots, Colts, Bengals, Seahawks, Ravens on the road. Those final 2 games of the season are on the road.
Schedule could play a huge factor here.
It's going to play. See, the AFC. I think the AFC North is the most entertaining division to watch right now because if you look at each individual team schedule, Ravens, Browns, Steelers, Bengals, any of them can slip up. Any of them can slip up. I don't think the Ravens look like the powerhouse of the AFC right now. They look like that. But if you really think about the Ravens schedule, nothing is guaranteed for them. Listen to this, right? They got the Browns. They got Browns at home, Bengals at home. Then they got to go to the West Coast and face the Chargers. Even though I don't like the Chargers,
they can beat them.
They can beat them. You know what I mean? And then you got the Rams, who knows who's going to be quarterbacking at that time. It could be Stafford, could be Wentz. We never know. But like I said, you got Browns, Bengals, Chargers on the road, Rams at home, Jaguars on the road. Jags can beat them.
Yep. Oh yes.
They got 49ers on the road. If the 49ers right the ship, they can beat them.
What a tough schedule.
And then they got Miami at home, then Steelers at home. The Steelers always scare them. So let's be honest about this. Other than that Rams matchup, they can lose any one of those games.
Any injuries could put that team out of the playoffs, actually.
Exactly. You know, the Eagles 5-game stretch gets talked about as one of the hardest stretches in the league. If you look at the final leg of the season for the Ravens, I don't think there's nothing guaranteed on that schedule.
There's not.
Outside of the Rams game.
Let me go to the NFC over here now. But wait. What about the Texans?
The Texans. I like the Texans, man. Listen, I want the Texans in the playoffs so bad. Right now,
you think they could knock the Bills out of that spot, that number 7 spot?
Yes. You want to know why? The Texans.
Because they got a shitty schedule.
The schedule. Listen to this, right? For the Texans coming up here, they got so they're on the road against the Bengals, right? But they got so on the road against the Bengals, home against the Cardinals, home against the Jags, home against the Broncos, on the road against the Jets, on the road against the Titans, home against the Browns, home against Titans, on the road against the Colts.
When you're in that North, dude, you're going to play a tough game every other week. No matter what.
Exactly, right? So that's the Texans. And then the Buffalo Bills, their upcoming schedule, they got Broncos, who, in my opinion,
they stabilized.
At this rate, I think the Bills can lose to the Broncos. At this,
they've stabilized that thing in Denver.
They have. So they got Broncos, and then they got Jets, who have a tough defense, but I don't know if Zach Wilson's going to do anything for them. Exactly. And then you have, and then you're on the road against the Eagles. You're on the road against the Chiefs. Then you're home against the Cowboys. Then you're on the road against the Chargers. And then you got Patriots. And then you're on the road against the Dolphins. This can get tricky for the Bills, especially because of all the injuries they've dealt with. And I'm not saying they're completely out of the water, I'm out of the woods, but the reality is I think the Texans, they can bump them. They can bump them. Like, I think the AFC is the most entertaining conference right now because you have no idea how that thing's going to play out. All the way up to the number 1 seed. Like, really, like the Ravens they don't have pole position. And it's going to be so entertaining to watch.
Look at the quarterbacks: Mahomes, Lamar Jackson, Tua, Trevor Lawrence, Joe Burrow, Deshaun Watson, and Josh Allen. This is just the teams I have. Those are all $45 million quarterbacks.
And listen, CJ Stroud is coming.
Man.
He's coming, man.
Let me get to the NFC over here.
Yep, let's do it.
I have the Eagles obviously winning the NFC East. The Lions winning the NFC North.
Right.
I got the 49ers winning the NFC West. The Saints, by default, are going to win the NFC South. Then here are the wild card teams. Cowboys 5, Seahawks 6, Vikings 7.
That's interesting. And here's the thing, right? Do you think, because Vikings are only 5-4, Commanders are 4-5, Falcons are 4-5, Tampa Bay is 3-5, right?
I
Do you
think the
think
Vikings are better than any of those teams, and they get Jefferson back.
that's a good point? And then Dobbs, we have to see how he plays over the stretch of a season. But he's going to have better weapons in Minnesota than he did in Arizona, so that's a fact. Better coaching. I think, honestly, you know what's so crazy? I think the NFC playoff picture is going to be what it's going to be. I don't think the NFC playoff picture changes much. I think it's going to play out exact. Here's the thing, right? Eagles, like you said, Eagles 1, Detroit Lions 2nd seed, 49ers 3rd seed, Saints 4th seed. I got the Seahawks being the 5th seed.
Okay, over the Cowboys.
Over the Cowboys. Dallas 6th seed, Vikings 7th seed. Now, obviously, the Eagles would get the bye if they win the conference, which we all think they will do.
Okay.
So I look at it like this, right? The Detroit Lions in the wild card round is going to face off with the Vikings, a divisional matchup. That's going to be entertaining as hell.
Lions and Vikings.
Yeah. And the Lions, listen, the Lions better not take them lightly because I understand the Lions are playing well, but they're still the Detroit Lions.
Oh, I'd be rooting for Dobbs.
And then the 49ers
Niners play the Cowboys.
Beat the Cowboys for a 3rd time in the playoffs. And they got to play at Candlestick.
Then the Saints.
The Cowboys don't want that.
Then the Saints and Seahawks.
I think honestly that's a toss-up. Like the Saints and the Seahawks, in my opinion, that's one of those games.
It would be in New Orleans.
Ooh. That game is still a toss-up because for me, it's all about who brings their A game that day. It's all about. See, I feel like
you
neither of
believe in
those
Geno
teams
over Derek Carr.
I feel like Geno has better weapons overall.
I think Geno's got better coaching overall.
He has the better coach. I think he has the better defense, the better weapons. But Geno has shown a propensity to just make a dumb play after a while.
He does. But Carr will make a bad throw. It's a coin flip.
That's a coin flip game. That is a coin flip game. And like I said, Detroit better not sleep on the Vikings if they get in. They better not.
How about this here? It'd be Ravens and Bills. It'd be Lamar versus Josh Allen.
No. It'll be Ravens. If the standings stay right now, stay as they are
Ravens
now.
And Bills.
Ravens Bengals. It'd be Ravens Bengals.
No, Ravens Bills because I got the Bills at 7.
Oh, okay, my bad.
Yeah.
Okay. So you don't have the Steelers getting in.
No, I have Chiefs, Ravens, Dolphins, Jags, Bengals, Browns, Bills.
Okay.
And so I would have Ravens, Bills.
Okay.
And it would be in Baltimore in the wild card round. It would be Dolphins and Browns.
I'm taking the Browns in that game. I'm taking
the Browns. And how about this one? It would be Jags and Bengals in the opening round.
That's a coin flip game. Because the Jags are good. Yo, I don't know why people are afraid to say the Jags are good.
They are.
Why
good.
are people afraid to say they're good?
They're one of the better teams in turnovers.
They're turnover so takeaways. Good. I'm bullish on the Jags right now. But I think the Ravens knock out the Bills. I think that game is kind of. Unfortunately, I think the Ravens will dominate them. I'm going to
say something to you, man. To get this, and I thought I would not say this to you. I think your boy's going to win the MVP.
If he goes 4-1, man, 4-1. That's the magic. I asked Rob about it, right? I asked Rob. I asked him directly. I said, "Hey, listen, Minnesota's talked about this. Like, do you think he could do it if they went 4-1? Do you think he should get MVP?" He said, "Oh, without question. I mean, think about like he's essentially playing playoff football.
Yeah, that's a playoff. That you're starting your playoffs after the bye.
Yeah." And that would be the thing I'm preaching to the team. Playoffs after the bye, man. Listen, This is going to be a hell of a run over the next several weeks because I can't wait. Like it's going to be a movie, Sills. We're gonna have a lot to talk about.
I think your boy's going to do it, man. I appreciate it, Tone.
Yes, sir.
You got it. That is our good friend Tone, Monday through Friday, 3:30, each and every single day. We call it the segment. Hey, do not forget, it's Happy Wingsgiving from Hooters. Our great friends, all specials during the month of November. Ice cold, Coors Light drafts, $2.99, 25 cents of that all goes to local charities. 2024 calendars are out. There's $100 in gift coupons that are in there. NortheastTutors.com. That's NortheastTutors.com. Wing Wednesdays, 1983, all you can eat. Kids eat for free on Saturdays. Military Mondays, 20% all day. Seafood Sundays, half price. Try the buffalo shrimp. And anytime you roll into any one of the Hooters, you tell them Big Sil sent you.
Football and Hooters, the perfect